morning. It's Friday, May 15th, 2026, and welcome to your early morning Stylo News Intelligence Update. I'll be your host today. Over the next few minutes, we're going to walk through a clear, strictly factual explainer of the last 2 weeks in the space domain. It's a theater of operations that is increasingly impacting everything from the technology in your pocket to broader global security.
Now, before we get into the briefing, a quick note. Today's intelligence update is sponsored by ProWave AI. They're the developers behind Stylo Intel Ops, which is the AI-powered open-source intelligence program we use to gather today's insights, and Stylo News, the commercial platform you can access right now on the web and mobile.
Let's look at the primary intelligence patterns our desk has identified for today. We're tracking global orbital threats, shifts in lunar strategy, the ripple effects of commercial launches, and finally, social sentiment, along with our upcoming watch list. Looking at the global strategic board, we can really map out the pulse of current operations. Over in the West, we're seeing heavy commercial and government launch activity dominating sites like Vandenberg Space Force Base and the Kennedy Space Center. But when we cast our eyes eastward, our intelligence highlights a set of entirely different operational objectives centered around Russia's Plesetsk Cosmodrome and China's Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Breaking that down impartially, Russia currently presents the most immediate tactical challenge. This assessment is based on a track record of jamming GNSS, that's the global navigation system your everyday GPS relies on, along with recent anti-satellite or ASAT capabilities. We even tracked a confirmed event recently where 2 Russian satellites maneuvered to within just 10 feet of each other. In contrast to that immediate disruption, China remains the long-term pacing threat. Their focus is heavily on rapid launch cadence and dual-use technology, like on-orbit servicing, which can very easily pivot from civilian support directly into military deterrence. Part 1. The Lunar Frontier. We'll look at strategy and the growing issue of space debris. The reality up there right now is that modern hardware is rapidly outpacing Cold War-era laws. For instance, NASA's Artemis 3 crewed lunar landing is now officially delayed to 2028. And because these new missions lean so heavily on private enterprise, the UN is warning of a massive legal loophole. Treaties written back in the 1960s assign liability exclusively to nations, not to private companies. So if a commercial lander crashes on the moon today, international law essentially just shrugs its shoulders. We're seeing this geopolitical divide play out through 2 very distinct competing frameworks for lunar governance. On one hand, you have the United States leading the Artemis Accords, which 66 nations have now signed, aiming to promote safety zones, transparency, and cooperative resource use. On the other hand, China and Russia have explicitly rejected those accords, opting instead to promote an alternative framework called the International Lunar Research Station. It's a clear, ongoing competition to set the ground rules for the next 100 years of space exploration. And to put a fine point on those legal gaps we just mentioned, we're already seeing physical consequences. Fast forward to August 5th of this year. Astronomers calculate that a discarded SpaceX Falcon 9 upper stage is going to crash right into the moon's Einstein crater. Now, while it certainly doesn't pose a threat to life, it's a stark reminder that our debris management protocols are practically non-existent once you leave Earth's orbit. Moving on to Part 2, the commercial engine. Let's examine recent launches and their global impacts. If we systematically assess the impact of this commercial boom, the effects are widespread. Locally, down at the Kennedy Space Center, flights like the CRS-34 commercial resupply mission are a major boost to Florida's economy. That mission just delivered synthetic bone research, proving how valuable microgravity is becoming to terrestrial healthcare. On a national level, largely to counter the Russian and Chinese anti-satellite threats we discussed earlier, the U.S. is aggressively shifting toward a resilient, distributed missile warning system called Golden Dome, slated for 2028. And internationally, investor confidence is surging, perhaps best highlighted by Australia recently launching a brand new space industry exchange-traded fund. To truly grasp the operational tempo here, we need to look at the people setting the priorities. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman is steering the agency toward achievable, incremental milestones, specifically targeting a late 2027 rendezvous demonstration. In the commercial sector, Elon Musk and SpaceX remain heavily focused on their Starship version 3 vehicle, aiming to prove out full reusability for Mars ambitions. Meanwhile, Blue Origin is taking a noticeably more cautious, methodical path with the testing of its Blue Moon lunar lander. These distinct philosophies are what directly dictate the pace and direction of the entire industry. Finally, Part 3, the public pulse and forecast. We'll check in on social sentiment and outline our upcoming watch list. When we take the public pulse on the platform X, the data reveals a remarkably unified front. Fully 85% of tracked sentiment is highly optimistic, largely driven by the steady drumbeat of reusable rocket milestones and some truly stunning visual imagery coming back to Earth. The remaining 15% tends to skew a bit skeptical, raising valid points about government transparency and the ballooning costs of delayed programs like Artemis. But crucially, our Intel desk is detecting absolutely zero significant baseline of fear regarding current space operations.
So what should you be looking out for? Here is the official watch list for the coming weeks. Sometime in mid-May, keep an eye out for SpaceX's Flight 12 of Starship. That'll be a critical test of their V3 configuration. On May 19th, we're monitoring the SMILE mission, a joint venture between the European Space Agency and the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Looking a bit further to mid-June, AST SpaceMobile is scheduled to launch its Bluebird satellites. And of course, mark August 5th on your calendars. That's when astronomers will be watching the moon for the predicted impact of that discarded Falcon 9 stage. That wraps up this morning's intelligence brief. We've walked through evolving orbital threats, a growing lunar legal vacuum, and the sheer momentum of the commercial space engine. If you want to dive deeper into these issues, be sure to listen to today's full Stylo News Intel Update podcast. You can find the link right here in this post. And don't forget to visit stylonews.com to subscribe for AI-powered news on demand. I'll leave you with this thought to consider today. As commercial rockets continue to outpace international law, who truly governs the final frontier? Thank you for your time this morning, and have a great day.